Women, what do you think would be the worst thing about being a man? Part 2. Most women think there's nothing wrong with being abusive and cruel with men. It's so upsetting watching women treat men like absolute crap. To top it off, men are expected to still act like a gentleman, and also they're not allowed to feel vulnerable or to feel sad, angry because some lady was just a little sassy, when in reality she was being an abusive piece of crap. Edit. I'm a woman, not a heartbroken dude. Thanks for your concern, lol. Also, it has come to my attention that I didn't get my point across very well. By most women, I mean most women I know. I don't claim to know what most women think. I'm just talking from my experience. I've also been cruel to men. It's just too ingrained in our culture that being mean to men is acceptable. It isn't. We cannot expect to have an equal society if we don't treat men with respect, tolerance, and kindness. Thinking that you can treat men like crap just because they're mean is sexist, and we shouldn't tolerate it. We are responsible for creating the world we want to live in. Hope I explained myself better. Have a nice day. Probably being forced to never, feel. There are so many people who make fun of guys for having feelings or even showing them. I would never be able to deal with it, and my heart broke the day my boyfriend told me his exes used to verbally abuse him for crying in front of them. Edit. Changed words because I didn't want to make a personal generalization. Edit part 2. I didn't think this would blow up so fast. I've taken the afternoon into the evening reading every single one of your guys' replies, and I am genuinely devastated by some of the things I'm reading. Men, I'm so sorry. Words kind of fail me right now because I don't know what to say to any of you. What I want to say, though, is that you're all incredibly strong human beings, and you are that, a human being. With thoughts, feelings, emotions, and dreams. Your feelings are valid. You all deserve to feel and to be seen, heard, and cared for as a human being. I have to admit, even I, a pretty out there, theatrical, very emotional person, didn't feel as okay exposing my emotions to others. I remember being mocked as a kid and bottling that crap away, and it definitely hurt people close to me at times. I've gotten a lot better with help from loved ones and am trying to strive to be even better. It feels good, guys. Find yourself some loved ones that let you open up. Story 7. To everyone who thinks it has something to do with our Ds/balls, I promise we have much bigger problems than our nutsacks sticking to our thighs. We're increasingly assumed to be predators, apparently. We have a self-termination rate that is through the roof compared to women. We have a harder time getting custody in divorces because it's assumed that women are the obvious caretakers by default. Increasingly, there's tons of stuff about girl pride, but little boys are pretty well screwed if they try to be proud of being a boy. I'll gladly take some ball sweat if all that other stuff will go away. Story 8. Hands down, always being the villain. A colleague of mine was a bit on the heavier side, but decided to get into shape and started jogging. So he jogs around his block daily until his smartwatch tells him his quota for the day is full. That day he was a bit late, but went for a jog when the sun was setting. Not many people out there, but as he was on his way, some girls saw him jogging their way, got scared, and called the cops on him for obviously trying to chase them to abuse them or something. Now, the guy didn't know about the call. He just sees two girls seeing him coming, turning around and running away, and he's like, "What the F?" Until the cops come for him. You know, for the biggest offense in the whole human history, trying to get fit. I really felt bad for him. Story 9. Honestly, probably people just assuming that you'll do all the gross crap that no one else wants to do. Fixing up the car, unclogging the toilet, cleaning out the spider webs in the attic, scrubbing the mildew off the bathtub. Guys are just expected to do it all without complaint because that's the manly thing to do. As a woman, I find it pretty unfair. Alongside that are hiding a boner, people assuming that you can't have mental illnesses/disorders, not being allowed to cry/show emotions/be insecure about your body. All of it is really unfair. I'm sorry, guys. I feel really lucky in that I have a supportive group of friends who all aren't like this with me or other guys. And frankly, a lot of the communities I'm in, you don't see men being treated like this. So it kind of surprises me that there are still way too many people in the world who treat men like they should be emotionless, macho donks or nothing. Story 10. Having to chase after women. I'd give up halfway, honestly. Story 11. Overall, I think it's more difficult for guys to get dates. Story 12. People expected that I could fight. Story 13. Probably the stigma. I've seen a single father get shouted at for being with his kid when at a park for trying to kidnap children. The dude wanted to make his son happy, not molest him for F's sake. Story 14. As a woman, I will never ever have any doubt that my children are mine. Edit. Apologies to the man whose anxiety I raised by 150%. Story 15. Not having your emotions taken seriously, then lashing out because of it, and then seen as violent because you just want to be understood. I had that with abusive parents, but normally people don't treat me that way because I'm a woman. I can't imagine what an entire life of not having your feelings acknowledged in a healthy way feels like. Suck it up and be a man. I admit, I think it's really unhealthy that boys are taught that. And yeah, I think it does lead to a lot of behaviors that can range from unhealthy to downright dangerous. Then again, it doesn't mean they aren't accountable for what they do when they lash out. I feel bad for them, but I feel worse for people they hurt. Story 16. Being considered a possible threat by strangers, probably. Like, I get it, you never know, but it would probably suck. Either that or the D and balls. Like, they're just dangling there? Are they in the way? How do you straddle stuff? Will you accidentally squish them? Do you have to, tuck them into your underwear? First, boxer briefs. Comfortable, stylish, and keep everything in place. Second, can you accidentally squish them? Why don't you go ahead and ask Mr. Belvedere? Story 17. Not being able to take care of children without getting dirty looks. Edit. Holy moly guacamole. Story 18. Oh, you got stuck taking care of the kids today, huh? Giving mom a day off, finally? Dads know what I'm talking about. Edit. Well, that blew up. Glad to see I'm not crazy. It's interesting to see the scattered few people say, oh my god, people don't actually talk like that, and then see hundreds of other folks confirm that, yeah, people do say that crap. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video and have a great day. Story 19. Only one orgasm at a time. Story 20. Having to be the person physically in charge in a threatening situation, like always being with a man when walking home from a party in a sketchy area at night. Yes, there is safety in numbers, but the dude is expected to be protective regardless of level of awareness, self-defensive, or drunkenness. That's a lot of pressure. Story 21. If the women don't get wet or come or have fun in bed, it's your fault. If you don't get hard or come or have fun in bed, it's also your fault. You doing okay there, buddy? Everything going all right at home? Story 22. Being expected to be more effective at physical labor, being expected to do more dangerous work, receiving less empathy when struggling with emotional issues. Story 23. I would not be allowed a moment of weakness. Bad day? You can't cry unless your mother just died. Hurt yourself? Suck it up and go to the hospital. Feeling self-conscious about your body? Nobody cares. Feeling ill? Someone has a man cold. I mean, are there really that many people that are treating men like this? I'm fully willing to accept that I may just surround myself with people who aren't like the majority of society, but I'm seeing so much of this in this thread. I'm getting a little worried for the rest of you. Story 24. Being abused in public by a woman and having people laugh instead of intervening to help you. Also, the whole to be a man, you have to act a certain way. Brutal. Story 25. You're the ones who have to kill the big hairy spider. Story 26. I was hard. Haha, good one. Edit. I see a lot of men's stories in the comments, and while I don't know the perfect thing to say, thank you for having the courage to come forward, and also I'm sorry that you have such a thing to contribute to this at all. Story 27. Having an even harsher reaction when I'd go against gender roles. I mean, as a woman, there's backlash sometimes, but there's a whole monument very publicized that tells me that I can do whatever I want and F the naysayers. Story 28. Being expected to be the breadwinner generally by society, being less likely to gain custody of my own kids in a separation, being disposable in times of war, do it yourself, and having to deal with my own balls. What if I sat on one? Look, it's less about accidentally sitting on it. It's having a Great Dane with a tail that feels like a whip made out of bone that is exactly ball height when it wags. I've been tapped right on the balls too many times, and it sucks just as bad each time. Story 29. Being arrested for defending myself against an abusive partner. Story 30. I would be terrified of my D getting stuck in a zipper. Story 31. The constant insecurity of whether you're man enough. Story 32. Being in a crowded urinal. Everyone has the D's out standing next to each other. Like, what the hell? Just make stalls. Why have them in the open? Edit. Okay, I want to be clear. I act y'all don't stare at each other's D's or that you stand next together unless necessary. I meant that going at a crowded place and needing to peeing and just try to look straight forward and ignore the dudes near you. Story 33. Feeling uncomfortable or shamed for showing your emotions. It's a sad truth, but since the dawn of time, men have been encouraged to live up to the expectations of having to be tough or being a rock for the family. As a woman, I think we feel more comfortable crying and expressing our sadness. Men get sad too, and it's about time they feel free to express it as easily as women do. Story 34. I would think it would be expected to do all the heavy lifting. To me, as a 64-year-old woman, I do my best to move things on my own. If I must ask for help, I make sure my helpers are well compensated with cold, tasty beverages and snacks/food. Just because you're a male doesn't mean it's your legacy to be a physical workhorse. It doesn't help when you're a decent height and thicker build. People just assume you love lifting fridges and hauling crap. Granted, I am strong enough to help, but that doesn't mean I want to. Story 35. This is probably the most interesting women post I've seen yet. Story 36. Your balls sticking to your leg in the summertime. Story 37. Not being able to show emotion as much. I'm a very emotional person. I wouldn't even be able to handle it. Let men cry. Let men be outwardly excited about things. Let men have emotional freedom. Edit. What I mean by emotional freedom is to express emotions in a way that is comfortable to you. There isn't a correct way to express emotions, but there is an incorrect way. Don't bottle up your feelings, and don't let people make you feel bad for being emotional. Story 38. Having a higher self-termination rate, but depression and other mental illnesses being pretty taboo. Edit. As many have pointed out, women attempt self-termination more often, but I feel the point still stands. Edit 2. I now know that women attempt self-termination more because they are less successful. Thank you for the insight. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.